Alright guys, so in this video we're going to start to work on our service. So before we go and we make it so that we can add markers and save them, we need to actually be pulling markers from local storage as opposed to just having them right in the component like we do right here. Okay, this isn't ideal. So we're going to create our service. I'm going to create a new file and we're going to call this marker.service.ts. Alright, and then in there we're going to import our injectable so that we can inject this as a service, as a dependency, and that's going to be from at angular/core. And then we also want well, that's it for now actually. And then we want our decorator injectable and then the class. So export class marker service. Okay, and let's put a constructor. Alright, and what I want to do just to test it out is say console.log marker service initialized. And we'll save it, and then let's go to our app component TS file. And we need to first import it. So import marker service, and that's going to be from, let's see, /marker.service. And then since it's a service, we need to add it as a provider. So let's go right here and say providers marker service. And then to inject it as a dependency, we got to go to the constructor right here, and we'll say private underscore marker service, set that to marker service. So it's now available throughout the application. So I'm going to save it, and if we look down in the console, marker service initialized. Now the way I want this to work, if we go on our service, we're going to have a function called getMarkers, and that's going to look at local storage in an item called markers for a JSON string. So what we want to do is get that and then parse it as JSON and return it. So let's do var markers, and we'll set it to json.parse, and then pass in local storage dot get item, and it's going to be called markers. Alright, and then we just need to return markers. Now right now we don't have anything. We don't have any markers in local storage. So what I want to do is I want to create a file that's going to check to see if there's any markers, and if there's not, to add in some sample markers just like we have now. So let's save that, and then we're going to create another file, and we're going to call this init-markers.ts. Okay, and then we're going to add a class. So we're going to say export class init, and that's going to have a function called load, and then we're going to check local storage. Okay, we'll say if local storage dot get items get item markers, if it is equal to null, or I'm just going to copy that, or it's equal to undefined. Okay, that means that there's no markers found. So what we want to do is we want to add them. So let's first do a console.log, and let's say no markers found, creating. Okay, and then what we can do is go into our app component TS where we have these markers, and let's just grab this and we'll just cut it out for now, and then we'll go back to our init and we'll say var markers. I'm just going to get rid of this. Okay, and then what we'll do is let's go right under it and say local storage dot set item, and we want to set markers. And then here we can't just insert it as is because it's JSON. We need to stringify it. So JSON dot stringify, and then pass in markers. Okay, and then we'll just return, and let's do an else. Console.log, let's say loading markers. Alright, so let's go ahead and save that, and then we're going to go to our service and go up here, and we need to import it. So we're going to say import init from /init markers. Now in order to use this, we're going to have to extend this service. So let's say extend init. Now we're getting an error here because in order to call the constructor of the init of the load function, or I'm sorry, the init class, we need to go inside of this constructor and just run super. Okay, and then we ultimately want to run the load function, so we'll say this dot load, and that should run it. So let's save. Okay, and then what we'll do is actually just reload, and then let's go to resources and then local storage, and you can see we have this key markers, and then the value is a JSON string. Okay, so that's exactly what we want. Now at the moment these markers are still coming from right in the component, so we have to set it to come from the service, from local storage. So let's go to app component TS, and let's go right here, and we're just going to add in markers, and we want to set that to the type of marker. And then down in the constructor, we're going to say this dot markers is equal to this dot underscore marker service dot get markers, and that should get it from local storage. So let's save it, reload. Now it just so happens that I already had some stuff in local storage, so what I'm going to do is delete what we have here and then reload, and now it's going to load what we have in our init file. Now what we want to do is when we submit the form, we want it to submit to local storage through the service. So let's go to marker service, and let's create a function called add marker, and that's going to take in marker, and we'll say any. And first thing we want to do is fetch markers, and we're going to get it from local storage, so we can actually copy this right here and paste that in, and then we need to add new marker to set. So to do that, all we have to do is say markers.push. That's going to add to it, pass in marker, and then we just need to set local storage again. So we'll say local storage dot set item, and we want to set markers to markers. Okay, but we have to make sure we stringify that. Alright, now back in the component, when we call this add marker, we're going to make sure we call that service function. So let's go right under the push and say this dot underscore marker service dot add marker, and we want to pass in new marker. Save that. Okay, let's go and get some location here. We'll say I don't know, Main Street, Newburyport, Mass. Find, and then let's grab the longitude and the latitude, and here we'll say company 4. Draggable, yes. Map it. There it is. Now if I reload, it should stay there. Alright, good. So now we can add a marker and actually have it persist to local storage through our service. Now in the next video, what I want to do is make it so that when we click and we add a marker that way, that it stays, because right now if I reload, it goes away. And then we also want to be able to drag and have them stay in position, because right now it's not going to. Okay, so I will see you in the next video.